Hello, welcome back to the Out of Spec Podcast. I'm joined by Mike Breeling, Ben Spreen, and not Kyle Connor because he is in Germany for a long time. We may see him here and there, maybe on a couple episodes, but he is off driving all the cars we wish we could drive. But today we will talk about the 4xE. I finished my time with the new Wrangler plug-in hybrid. We're going to drool over the new Gunther Werks Speedster, and Alpha Motors has a official prototype on the Wolf. And the Mercedes-Benz AMG 63 SE performance. Let's see how that looks. So let's start right off with what we've been driving / doing. I will kind of just kick it off with, I guess, follow up from last week, because that's when we first mentioned the Wrangler 4xE. So I've now had it a week, just gave it back yesterday, and it was actually hard to give back. Kyle didn't really like the 4xE, but he also had a limited time with it, and it was when the battery had already been drained. So he didn't really get to understand its full potential. Although part of the video he did, which is just dropped on our channel, by the way, Out of Spec Reviews on YouTube, he did mention he could see kind of the potential. So I absolutely loved it. I got consistently over 20 miles on the battery, and the trail, like the off-road capability. I mean, obviously I had the Rubicon, so totally trail ready, electronic, unlocking differential or sway bars, differential. Like, it had everything I needed. 4 high, 4 low, all that worked on full EV mode. And on the trail, I mean, it lasts even longer because you're not going fast. So it's almost like a trail on EV mode is basically hypermiling in a way. Plus, there's a lot of downhill, which you get energy back, which you don't get gasoline back going downhill. So I loved it. And the trail I took it on was actually almost entirely one lane and had a lot of like cliffs on one side, like, you know, it's like carved in the side of a mountain type thing. So the fact that it was completely silent, I could hear other loud off-roaders coming from like a mile away. So I could go to a pull-off and wait for them, and they'd be like, how do you know? So I found it very useful.
Yeah, so I actually have a friend who went out and bought a Rubicon 4XE. He didn't own it very long, admittedly, because it just didn't ultimately meet his needs of what he was looking for. He thought that it would, but he basically echoed everything that Jordan just said about it. It was his first ever plug-in electric car or SUV or anything that he's owned. And he absolutely fell in love with the driving around that Jeep on the electric mode when he could. Now, he works from home, so he doesn't really have a commute. But out on the trail, he did take it off-roading a number of times. And that's what he said, like the instant torque, the fact that you got regen, off-roading. You never had to fire up the motor, hardly ever, I think he said. But ultimately went back to a power wagon because he just needed more storage space inside. Apparently the battery pack does take up some of that room underneath the rear seat. And it just kind of limits the overall interior usability for what he was looking for. But very impressive car, I think. I have seen a couple of them around here in the Raleigh area. I think I've only ever seen the Saharas, though, or Saharas, not the Rubicons.
Yeah, so it's one thing to note. At the moment, it's only Sahara, Rubicon, and high altitude. And so Rubicon's kind of the trail-ready one, which theoretically should inflict a little bit on your range because it is bigger tires. So the Sahara would probably get even better, very slightly. But yeah, it makes sense for a very niche amount of people, like the people who have a short commute, like 20 miles, 25 miles round trip, or if you have charging where you're going, that helps. So this will do level 2 charging, just over 2 hours to full, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah,
so it's very usable. But if you have much longer commutes or you can't rely on charging, then it kind of, like, if the electric component is just not something you would want to use, it makes no sense because it gets worse gas mileage than the turbo 4-cylinder because it is the turbo 4-cylinder plus more weight. So it's pretty abysmal, though it is fun too. So another, I guess, potential reason to buy this is it is the most powerful Wrangler besides the 392. It actually has the same torque, 470 pound-feet of torque, and 375 horsepower. So that's no joke. I went and shot some photos the other night, which you could see some of them here. And I was with my friend who had a Civic Type R, and I was keeping up with him just fine. It was awesome. And then he went and bought one of these the next day. So
did he sell his Type R for the Rubicon?
No, he has this was his 25th car in his driveway.
Okay.
He's like full time on Turo. That's his thing. So Turo's everything. So he's got quite a diverse fleet.
I'll say.
Yeah, this was a blast. I took the doors off. So taking the doors off and the roof off made me really want a Bronco, because for some reason it was just a pain. And also the components, like the plastic panels inside the Jeep you have to remove to take the doors off, are already falling apart. And this has 7,000 miles. And they are, and not every journalist does this either. So it's like, I can just look at them and see that they're made extremely poorly. Like, you probably just want to replace them every year, every couple of years. Depends how much you take your doors off, I guess.
Yeah, I don't see that many Jeeps with doors off, at least all 4 of them.
Yeah, took the dog out.
It's a dog car.
Yeah.
I have to say the electric off-roading is something I've done a couple times. I did it in the Model X. We've done it in the e-tron. We've done it in the smart car, because that
makes sense.
Made sense at the time. And it's really nice to be able to cruise around kind of in silence when you're out in the wild, because you sort of start to pay attention more to what you're looking at, what you're around, what you're hearing, nature. I mean, that's the whole point of off-roading, I think, is to get out and explore. But you can hear everything going on with the tires and things like that, and traction, and you can all of a sudden hear, is this dry mud or is it wet underneath? You hear that crunching of the surface. So it kind of adds a new element. Off-roading is one of those things that I think is really benefited from an electric powertrain. Just purely from the, you gain a new sense. Because in a sports car, you have wind noise and stuff. And so you're not hearing the tires a whole lot because it's an EV, but off-roading, you're doing, 5 miles an hour. Range is generally good. I don't think we could off-road in the smart car all day, and the battery would be fine. It wouldn't really run through much of it, because you're not actually traveling that far. You spend 8 hours to go 3 miles, 4 miles, something like that. So it actually works out well.
Well, even with the e-tron, when we were on the sand or the beach and the couple little trails we took it on, it didn't use very much range at all. We definitely would consume way more just driving on a road. So I think that with the future electric off-roaders on the horizon here, pretty exciting overlanding future coming up.
Now, I will say the one big quirk with the Jeep 4xE, which now I kind of want to go see if Doug DeMuro's done a video on it, because it's such a quirk, is the steering motor. When you're in electric mode, all you hear is, tires on the ground or rocks or whatever the tires are in contact with, and also the squeaking of the electric power steering module, whatever that is.
Really?
It is so loud. Like,
oh wow. I
mean, not like deadening loud, but when nothing else is making noise, that's all you hear. And it is really funny. Like, it's just, it literally sounds comical. Like, it's a sound maybe someone would use in a cartoon of a car or something. It's so weird. I am curious if it was just mine. So I need to go see my friend's Wrangler 4xE and see if his does the same thing. But it was really interesting. But yeah, it was, otherwise I thought it was awesome. I was very much turned on to the aspect of no doors, no roof life. Just being like a Miata person who has the top down, literally down to about 20 degrees Fahrenheit. That's my limit. So the Jeep was just my kind of, it was the perfect thing to pair with a Miata. But I'm dying to see the Bronco, because I think that'll, the new two-door Bronco would probably be my cup of tea.
Do they do two-door 4xE? I know it's a niche vehicle, and that would be the most niche of it, but that would be pretty cool, I feel like.
So they don't, because the battery's under the rear seat. Yeah. Maybe some. I think they will someday. So I think it's a cool Jeep. 4xE is awesome, but it starts at about 50 grand. Most of them that I've seen are spec'd around 60, 65, which is encroaching on 492 price territory. And I think the value is going to plummet when Jeep continues to electrify their lineup and improve on it. And especially when, like, in a couple of years, there'll be a full electric Jeep probably. And then no one's going to want the 4xe, like, because that makes no sense. Like, if you want a car for road trips, you'll buy the not 4xe because the battery literally won't help you. So,
well, the current benefit of the 4x4e is that if you wanted to get into a Jeep Wrangler, it is like one of the cheapest ways to lease one. Their lease payments are advertised at like two something a month. It's kind of crazy.
And that's what I would do, because then a couple of years lease, and then the one you really probably want will be out. So
the full electric one.
Yeah, it's like a good taste. So I don't know.
I think a plug-in is always a great opportunity to lease, because it lets you dip your toes into EV, and then it's not your problem at the end of it, because it is the most complicated drivetrain you could possibly have, because you've got both.
Yeah, I would not want to own this out of warranty. The drivetrain was really clunky. That's something Kyle pointed out in his video, and I felt it too. So in EV mode, it's fine, and then without the electric component, it's fine. But when you're in hybrid, it really struggles to go between EV and combustion engine. Because what's interesting is the electric motor is between the engine and the transmission. So that's what was really weird too, is like in EV mode, you can hear it
changes.
Yeah, it's like spooling, quote unquote, and then drops down the next gear, like 8 speeds of EV. So it's not direct drive, which is really weird, because this is the first one I've not had a direct drive in the EV experience.
Well, a lot of plugins are that way right now. I mean, you've got Porsche, BMW, Land Rover products that are plug-in hybrid. They're all just it's in the transmission where torque converter might be.
Yeah.
I think the only exception I can think of is the Toyota RAV4 Prime, which has got a big electric rear motor that's purely for the rear wheels. So I don't know of many PHEVs that don't have a pure EV experience, which is kind of upsetting. Volts, I guess they don't make that anymore. Because I think the benefit of it is you can have an EV experience at times. And if you have a transmission there, well, then kind of takes away some of that.
Yeah. I don't remember I have the Volvo XC60 T8.
Oh, you're right. Thank you. Yeah, those are separate rear motors.
Yeah, that one was also a car I would not own out of warranty, because it's supercharged, turbocharged, and plug-in hybrid. But I thought, I was like, wow, that Bowers & Wilkins sound system. Yeah, I have dreams about that. Yeah.
I think I am foolish enough, and maybe foolishly in love enough, to own a Volvo plug-in hybrid out of warranty, like the V60 Polestar especially. I would probably do dumb things to have one of those. I really like that.
Yeah, that would be fun to have those in like 20 years or something. Like,
I don't want it 20 years from now. I have a hard look, but like 2 years from now, sure.
But like right now, I'm looking at really old Volvos, thinking that would be cool to own. Like, it just looks out of place in a good way. Like they still look good. So we'll see. But speaking of off-roading, how's the Lexus? Because you guys just kind of jumped into this adventure out of the blue.
I don't know. I don't think I mentioned it last week, but I ended up selling my Audi back to Audi, my e-tron. So the e-tron is gone because the market right now is kind of crazy. So I was tinkering with the idea of selling the e-tron now while the market is so high, because generally, Audis don't tend to hold their value very well in a normal market. And I'm sure an Audi electric car probably holds its value even less than a normal Audi, but hard to tell. But anyway, the market was so high that we reached back out to the dealer I bought it from, the Audi dealer, and they made a very generous offer to buy it back, because they had no e-trons on their lot, and they didn't know when they were getting any other new ones due to the supply chain issues that all the manufacturers are having right now. So it worked out in my benefit. I got a pretty nice profit for driving an e-tron for 5 months. I ended up making more than $10,000 in cash by the end of it. So I'll take that. And then we kind of decided, like, well, let's buy something fun. Like, we talked about going off-roading. We just were off-roading in the e-tron, kind of, on the beach. And that's when we ended up buying this Lexus. Needed a little bit of work. Ben actually ended up doing some work on it this past weekend, which he can tell us about. But overall, we're really loving it. I can't believe how nice this car is for a 2005.
Yeah, Lexus really builds a very nice product, and it's easy to forget that as a car enthusiast because they don't normally make anything I have any interest in. But it's held together really well, and everything on it is perfect because basically underneath it's all a Toyota Land Cruiser bits and bobs, except for the rear air suspension. That was done by Lexus, and that's what was wrong. So I went and had to replace some height sensors to get it to self-level and drive and not sit all wonky. And now it's perfect. And I've actually got, hopefully tomorrow we'll be putting on some nice wheels off of a 4Runner and some all-terrain knobby tires so we can go live the overland life for all of probably 3 days is my guess before we realize that we're not outdoors people and just do it for the looks.
Hey,
So-
looks are valid.
Oh yeah, looks.
That's why I want a
sick.
ladder on the back. I specifically want to buy one of those ladders, and I know I'm never going to climb up it. Except
Yes, you
for
would.
like
You would do it once.
but I
You
would
gotta
have
get
a reason to. I'd invent reasons to do it. Oh,
Get
let me
one of
wash
those-
the roof real quick. I'm gonna, get up there with the sponge or something.
put one of those stickers that says like "not for actual use" or something like that.
Yeah, that would actually be really
That's a good idea. That's a good
People
idea.
would love
actually.
that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, a bit of
So-
ladder, roof rack, just things that may never get used.
Oh yeah,
but
like
it's
an
all about
awning or
the
a tent
style.
even.
yeah.
I already know I want one of those pull-out sun awnings. I'm already doing that. And I've also looked into like grills that mount into a hitch, just because I've always wanted to have one of those. I thought it'd be fun. They're actually not that expensive, thankfully. So
So they've been around for
Yeah.
a while.
yeah, it's been a tailgate grill thing. That'd be kind of fun. But I think what we'll do with it is actually take it off-roading occasionally and then do like a long weekend trip in it. Realize that the outdoors is gross and probably not too much more than that. But that's, I need to get
That's
on my
because we live in North Carolina.
And if I get the bug, then I know that I'm safe in my Rivian order and I should do that. But, otherwise maybe I don't need to go for the Rivian anymore. So we'll see.
Well, we don't have bugs out here, so this is the place to come off road
We're
and camp
moving.
and do all that. Yeah.
Yeah, we are
Sold.
definitely moving now.
You got a guest room?
Yeah.
Well, it's being borrowed right now, but eventually. Yeah, but
We can pay your mortgage.
it'd be awesome to like have y'all come out because these are the trails. We could do some great videos and I've actually been befriending a lot of wheelers, I guess they call themselves, but they do like the hardcore trails. Like they have the builds and they do the hardcore trails that I would probably never touch in a press vehicle.
Yeah.
So, but
Probably
yeah,
a good idea.
on the opposite spectrum, I drove something else last night. For the first time ever, drove a right-hand drive vehicle.
Oh,
Before we get
Suzuki-
into the car, okay, we're getting into it. I
Oh.
wanted to just separate right-hand drive and ask you, as I've done it once before, and I want to know what your thoughts were, just car aside, right-hand drive in the US, because it's a really unique experience.
It is, yeah. So I only turned on the windshield wipers once. I was
That's
very
pretty good.
proud. Yeah. I reached for them a couple times and then had that like instant reaction of like, oh no, I don't want to do that. So that it was interesting. Like, so because not everything's backwards. I mean, wiper stock and turn signals are backwards. You are obviously backwards, but the pedals are correct. The gear selection is correct.
Mhm.
So but I almost stalled it starting it just because I was just so out of place. Like I didn't even know what I was doing. Like I forgot how to start a car for a second. It was
how
so
do I
weird.
use my left hand to change gears?
But what's funny is like you also this was at night too. So by default, you kind of like see the lane on the highway and you're like, okay, I need to be kind of close to the lane. But I had to reverse it because then I was putting my passenger into the other lane. But I was driving, I'll throw on the screen here for our viewers. I was driving a Suzuki Cappuccino, which is roughly 4 inches wide. So even if I was in the middle of the lane, he was still in the lane.
Cappuccino. It's so fun to say.
It is. I am enthralled by these cars. I mean, you can have a Targa top, a T-top, or a convertible. And it's all hard tops. There's no soft top to speak of. So it's a fully modular top, and I'm enamored. I love these things. It is very driving feel is very NA, maybe NB Miata. Looks wise, it can sometimes be mistaken by an NB until you see them side by side and realize just how much smaller this actually is.
It's very rare for a Miata to look large next to something. This is maybe the only way to do that.
Yeah, mine looked so big next to it, which was absolutely hysterical. But I loved it. I've definitely considered buying these at some point. Like, they're not for a K car. They're not that expensive. So because the three most popular ones that you can import now are the Suzuki Cappuccino, the Honda Beat, and the AutoZam AZ1. The AutoZam is by far the most
exotic.
I guess exotic of those three. It's probably the most rare, which is why it beckons a 3 to 4x price over the others. Because I can find cappuccinos all day for between 5 and 10.
Yeah, just go to Starbucks.
Yeah, and they're also different. Like, cappuccino is modular hardtop, front engine, rear wheel drive. Honda Beat is soft top, mid engine, rear wheel drive, and AutoZam is coupe, gull wing doors, rear wheel drive. I think it's rear wheel drive, right?
Yeah, mid engine too, right?
Yeah, I think it's mid. I think it is. Yeah, so it's fascinating. I'd love to have all three, honestly, but what is money in garage space, anyways?
I actually really like the Honda Beat. That's the only right-hand drive car I drove.
Yeah, we've looked at those.
Yeah, I've gone down the which weird JDM K car do I buy rabbit hole like multiple times a year. It's probably seasonal at this point. Everything from I want a Delica four-wheel drive van to Kyle and I both were very close to buying a. We were. Kyle and I were both very close to also buying a K car fire truck. I don't remember why.
I was looking at those the other day. Another podcast I helped with, we did we basically had, almost like a Top Gear challenge of a budget and a limitation for a region. So with my brother's budget, he had 3 cars, and with mine, I had 7, and one of them was a fire truck. And it was just too, I would just convert it to a video thing, just video gear truck, but keep all the fire truck looks. I think that'd be awesome.
I would keep it as a fire truck and start a mobile detailing business.
That's amazing.
You want to wash the car?
Yeah.
Open up the pressure. There you go.
That's a great idea. Yeah, I have a friend who imports cars, and so all 3 of his cars are right-hand drive because he kept for himself Mitsubishi Evo 3 and a Delica and a Supra Mark III factory wide body, which is crazy.
That's neat.
So he's what turned me on to right-hand drive cars, and now it's my family will be like, "Oh, is that a Lamborghini?" And I'm looking the other way, looking at the right-hand drive Delica that no one gives a second glance at. So
is it on Acti?
Yeah, there's a lot of Delicas here.
I'm glad we have the GX because I was close to a Delica for a while.
Oh, we were close. We looked at it pretty hard.
I already had called what was it, Delica USA or something. That's someone who specifically that's all they handle. And oh God, they have great names. They're Space Tour or Space Cruiser or Starliner. They always spaceship names. It's good.
And there's the less exciting looking, but probably more practical and reliable Toyota Hiace. I've given those thoughts as well.
I can tell you what it's like to drive a Hiace because I've driven one in South Africa. It is unremarkable. I mean, I believe it. It's 20-passenger van with a manual gearbox and a diesel engine, and that somehow you would think is interesting, but it's not.
Yeah,
it's kind of like driving a Toyota Camry. Well, Toyota products all feel the same. They do this thing where they're they're all about the same. Although the amount of space in it's good, and it's kind of cab forward, so you get that's a different turning experience, which is kind of unique. You can make a tighter turn than you think you can because there's nothing in front of you. And in fact, you will sometimes, as the driver, go over a curb where the tires won't touch the curb, which is a very strange experience.
Yeah. Well, also on the off-road
camper.
Also on the off-road train, actually, so the next thing we're going to show, I would straight up camp out of. Switching to news, Alpha, which I think we've touched on maybe once at some point in a previous episode. I don't remember. But we were going to talk about them now because we finally have an actual prototype. This is the Wolf, which they have the Wolf Plus, which is kind of weird because that sounds like a phone name, sort of. But this is
Pro as well, the Wolf Pro Max Plus XL.
I'll actually go to their website too. Wolf Plus and Wolf Plus Cloud Brake. That's fun.
Ooh, that's a good. That's just like the delicate trim level names right there. Then.
Yeah, that's probably some inspiration.
Ooh.
You just drag your tent around. This is straight up like I could see Elon seeing this and he's like getting ideas for Mars. But
yeah, I'm assuming those are like inflatable exoskeleton that brings up the tent, like it's air tubes and not metal.
Probably, yeah. I would hope
That's
so.
That's cool.
Wolf Plus Crowd Brake, and Super Wolf, which is their 4-door.
Super Wolf.
Yeah.
Oh, that deserves its name. Look at that.
So these are all
huge. It's got like the Bronco tire Sasquatch package, stance and fitment.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Most all of their trims or packages, whatever, are renders. But what made news was their actual prototype right here, which is just the Wolf. So it's just a 2-door, not extended cab or anything.
I love it.
I am enamored. This is like Subaru Brat has returned. And I can't get enough of it. It is slow, so to speak, for an EV, but I don't like. I'm hoping people are going to get out of that thing where they're obsessed with 0 to 60 times. Just understand, like, any EV is going to feel relatively quick because what you notice is that off the line immediate acceleration. Even if 0 to 10 is like your fastest point, and then it kind of tapers off. But this is 0 to 60 in 6.2 seconds, which is actually about the same as the Mustang Mach-E 4XE, or whatever it's called, the base model Mach-E. So I love this thing. It's not too long. It's just a hair longer than a Subaru Outback. So
it's not far off of a Ford Raptor's acceleration. I think that's what 5.8 or whatever, and that's 6.2.
They might be quicker than that.
They might be now with the turbo engines, but like the early ones were not fast with the V8.
Yeah, so it's awesome, looks wise at least. But again, I guess to bring Kyle's point of view in, even though he's not here, all they have is a prototype and literally nothing else. So according to Kyle, they do not exist. Same kind of argument he likes to bring up about the Cybertruck. Like, it's making so much news, although at least they know where they're building Cybertruck. Wolf or Alpha doesn't even have a facility really. They're planning it. They're planning to build it. Yeah, they built a prototype. Like, they have a facility, but they haven't talked about where they're going to build like large scale, except that they want to do it inside the US.
Of course, yeah.
So,
well, and you probably have to for the pickup truck thing, for the chicken tax.
But it's actually fairly practical too. Like, the actual bed is bigger than the incoming like Ford Maverick. And I think a lot of people will compare this to the Ford Maverick because it is comparable in size. But the Maverick has like bigger cab, and this has bigger bed, and obviously much more aggressive off-road capable looks versus the Maverick's front-wheel drive base package. So
I think they're pretty far along to have a physical, if it's even functional. That's a huge step there too. Prototype. There's plenty of EV companies that are talking about that I've heard far more about than this company, and they haven't even done more than a render, let alone like a physical thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, they actually have like bed length measurements. I mean, that's pretty good. Like, you can get a pretty solid idea of the usability of this truck. And gosh, it looks so cool. I'm so sad that it's not coming out like tomorrow, because I'd buy one.
Yeah, exactly.
And
like
buy to the max.
It really looks like someone took like a really early Toyota pickup truck or like Datsun pickup truck and put big old tires on it and just made it cool and modern, and is like, okay, we're going to sell that, which is perfect. Why mess with it if it's, it's a good idea.
Yeah, DC fast charging. There is a frunk, so lockable exterior storage, just like, the Lightning and stuff. And here's the interior, which is very minimal, and I like it. It's just basic
I
and
like
bare
the
bones.
seats. It's not like a bench seat, so you still get some kind of buckety seat. And I guess if you needed a crew cab, you can get one. Oh yeah, look at that. That looks cool. It's like very old school, like 80s, 90s.
Yeah, I love
Japanese pickup.
I love that the prototype has a brown interior. Like no one's doing that in prototypes, except maybe Bentley. Yeah, I love it.
You know, this brings up an interesting thing. Looking at the front photo there, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think of all the EV pickup trucks, Ford has done the best frunk, because when they open it up, the grill comes with it, so you don't have this lip to load over. You know, you're not getting into this like box. You're getting into this. It's, you know, similar ease of access as a pickup truck bed, because you remove one wall from the equation. And now that I've seen that on the, you know, photos of the Ford Lightning, I'm kind of upset that other things don't have it, because it seems like a great idea, actually.
Yeah, it is. So when I went up to see the Lightning at Ford Proving Grounds, the person I talked to, which was kind of fun because you don't really think about this when you go see a vehicle. I talked to the lead designer of the Mega Power Frunk. That's what they call it. And I didn't ever, I think, give thought to the fact that there would be a lead designer of the Mega Power Frunk, but this entire person's job for who knows how long was designing everything about the Frunk. And I think that'd be such an interesting job, like hyper focused on this one thing.
Well, I mean, you're going to interact with that so much. It's got power. I mean, that's such a key user experience thing on a truck like that, and how they're positioning it. Makes sense that they would need someone for that, because, you know, that's not just, oh, hey, designers, we need this. And by the way, we wanted to do like everything you could ever want a cargo space to do and more. Like they'd be like, whoa, hang on, that sounds like its own thing right now.
Yeah, it wasn't an afterthought. And, you know, the fact that just like Corvette with the C8, Ford's, you know, thing with the Mega Power Frunk is the fact that it would carry 2 sets of golf clubs, which I think is just a funny metric, but I guess they know their users. Although I don't see many Ford F-150s at golf courses. It's more Corvettes. So
I don't see either golf courses, but depends on the golf course, I guess.
Yeah. If we can drool for a little bit, I want to talk about this Porsche Gunther Werks. How familiar are you guys with Gunther Werks?
I'm familiar.
Okay, please tell us a sky high view, or is that your summary? They make cool stuff.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think because Alpina's now in house at BMW. Gunther Werks is just a company who's had a very long history of, especially in the Porsche world, making some pretty unique things, modifying some things. And so this is basically their 993 remastered as a Speedster, basically. Or I don't know if they're starting with the Speedster in this. I haven't actually dove into it too much. But this was at Monterey Car Week. I think they unveiled it. And it looks so cool because it's kind of this retro future modern take on, you know, and 993 has always been a great looking car, but you give it some modern touches and take the roof off. And in the Porsche world, Speedster is a very special type of vehicle, because a convertible, or a cabriolet as they called it, would be a vehicle that you drive with the roof off on occasion. But a Speedster is a vehicle that you drive with the roof up on occasion. That means it is really meant to be driven with roof down 95% of the time you're using it. And so that creates a very different look. In Porsche world, you get these kind of buttresses that come up behind the rear roll bars and behind your heads, you know, almost F1 style, but you have, you know, a pair of them. And so what a strikingly good looking car.
I'm obsessed with every detail on it. But I guess by definition, then my Miata is a Speedster, because the top is up maybe 5% of the time.
Well, I think in the Porsche terminology of it, it's what the intent is when building it. Yeah, you know, I guess. So I don't know how that would be. I'd like to think Mazda would like to think people would use the Miata that way. I don't know if everyone does, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, there was a prototype, like Mazda, right before the next generation. Typically, they'll take a couple cars to like big auto shows that are like kind of prototypes, but pretty much what it's going to look like. And they've often done kind of a Speedster with bikini top type of thing, where it's like 100% of the time the top is off, and if you want to add a top, it's like a whole process. Like it's very different from what actually comes out, and like those are what I'm obsessed with. I wish they would build one.
I mean, the way Porsche would market their Speedster is the roof is not powered. You have to put the car in park and exit the car, open a trunk, and manually do this. And not only do you manually have to raise up the roof and like do it all up, but you have to go to the other side of the car to like open and close and handle that. You know, it's like you have to get out of the car and walk around it twice to accomplish it.
Yeah, like the spiders, the Boxer Spider.
The Boxer Spider, exactly. Yeah, that's I guess their exception to the speed, so they needed to give it a different name.
I will say though that profile shot of it is really good looking.
That's
Holy
very cool.
moly!
So give
like
us the
those
specs.
fenders, the stance,
even the wheels and everything.
What do we have?
Yeah, 4-liter flat six, 435 horsepower, 335 pound-feet of torque.
Very good.
7,800 redline, which is awesome. I mean, a lot of Porsches have high redline, which is why it's fun. So, and then 6-speed manual.
G50. That's a very, very, very popular gearbox for classic 911 enthusiasts.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
I think they just made it like a little tighter. Like they got in there and upgraded some of the like the synchros and things like that.
Oh, it says it right there. In fact, revised ratios and a new differential with carbon clutches. Okay, so that's not going to feel like a G50. I don't even know why they mentioned that. It's going to feel like a completely different gearbox. There are people I talk to, the Porsche world, and like, yeah, it's got a G50. So you know what that means? As if like everyone, it's like it's a known quantity. It's like garlic bread or something. It's just like garlic bread. You know what that means? I'm like, but do you? If you've never had garlic bread before, I don't think so. But it carries that weight, which is interesting.
The gear shifter itself looks amazing, though, on the car. The way that they've made it, I don't know what they made it out of, but it looks like it's weighted and it feels amazing to touch.
I bet you it's mostly carbon fiber and very expensive. And they're all sold. Yeah. Am I right? It's expensive. They're all sold and carbon fiber, probably.
Well, I'm sure Jerry Seinfeld's getting one.
I don't know. I've heard from a lot of people he's very much a like purist when it comes to Porsches, and he recently just picked up. I was listening to it. Was it I can't remember 910 or something. A Porsche racing car based off of 911 from a while ago.
So he wouldn't like these mirrors.
I don't know. I think he'd find it cool. I don't know if it's a Seinfeld car. I'm kind of curious.
So it has an adaptive suspension too.
Mm-hmm.
Compose Sport and Sport Plus. Nice.
I love those seats. Now, I'm not a huge bucket seat guy, as Ben can tell you, because I always tell him he cannot get bucket seats in a car because I think they are, for the most part, silly unless your car is for a special occasion like this and you're actually going to use it on the racetrack. But those bucket seats look really good. Their interior looks, I mean, on par with Singer. I mean, we all know Singer does a great 911.
Yeah.
I think this interior looks just as good, if not even slightly better.
It's a lot of carbon fiber, but at least you know it's real. It's not like a vinyl wrap like Kyle's Sprinter van. So,
it's got to make it into every episode.
I think if you want the like sportier side of a 993, you get one of these. And if you want like craftsmanship, you probably still go with Singer, would be my guess, because that's really what those cars seem to be about. It's about rebuilding them from nut and bolt up to, that was made of aluminum, now it's titanium. That was steel, now it's aluminum, or probably titanium. Stuff like that. And this looks like if you cross someone who wants a modern Lamborghini, you give them some of that in a Porsche sort of a thing. That's sort of how I feel about that, because it's flashy. Those seats are kind of unique in that area. It has a bit of a modern supercar retro vibe to it,
which everyone
the 993 coupe that they're doing looks even better. I just love the 993 shape in general. Like Ben said, it's one of the better looking 911s I think ever, and it wears this Gunther Werks kit very well.
What year range was 993?
That was like the end of the like 911 air cooled time. So that was like 95 or something, 95 to 98, because 99 was 996. Yeah, we got like 95 to 98, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
It was one of the shorter generations. I think they were meant to go from just straight up from the 964 to the water cooled cars, but they weren't ready in time, and so 993 kind of happened as like a holdover in some way for Porsche at the time. Because my understanding of those cars is they've got weird subframe tweaks and stuff that are not necessary for what they are, but kind of end up making sense when you look at it in the context of the water cooled cars that came later.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't around that long. It's a short production run for a Porsche, at least. 4 years, which is very short. It's about half the normal time.
Yeah.
Well, of a current modern production car. Back then, that'd be much longer.
It's been so hard to keep
how long
track
they made the
of.
356.
It's been so hard I think for most people to keep track of the like numbering system for Porsche generation. But
yeah.
It's like if you know, you know. That's about it.
The good news is it's at least sequential. Oh wait, no, it's all out of order.
Yeah. So for the third time in a row, we have to touch on the Genesis GV60. This is going to be like the Dacia Sandero for Top Gear. Just keep bringing it up every couple.
Good news.
The good news. The Genesis GV60. So the reason it's making news is because everyone hated the lime green one we showed a couple weeks ago. Then last week we showed a spy photo in black, and now Genesis has shown us what it would look like with white to see if people like it. But it's like they're just like throwing darts at the wall, hoping one sticks.
They probably shouldn't have shown us because I like it even worse, to be honest. And that front end looks horrendous in this color. Like I don't know. To me, this car does not scream Genesis brand still. I just don't see why I would buy this over the Ioniq 5, which is also technically a Hyundai. Or even if they were to electrify the Tucson, I think that would look better than this GV60. And that little crease in the back, I don't understand. So still not a fan, not winning me over.
I've seen 3 Genesis GV70s this week, and those are stunning specimens on the road. And the GV80, I don't know, like, okay, if you want electric, great, go get an Ioniq 5. If you don't want electric, the GV70 and 80 is a masterpiece. It's hard. I mean, I guess they have to make an EV, but why did they make it look like this?
Well, their whole line is going EV, but by 2035 or something they just announced. And I guess that this is the start of that, but I don't know.
I'm going to take a positive spin very briefly and say that I do like the Chimsel, the third brake light, as it were, on the back of that. Looks like it's a very horizontal line integrated in the spoiler, which is cool. And okay, I'm at a positive. Thanks.
Yeah.
So I thought I could swing another one in there.
And I mean, on that photo of the interior, that looked nice.
This rear 3/4 angle is good. The curves and the haunches around the fenders and through the door, that looks pretty good. It has a little bit of an I-Pace vibe with that kind of cut up of black trim at the bottom of those doors, which makes it kind of look elongated in a very nice way. But there's just some angles where that front end that nose is so bulbousy looking. And again, I'm going to say it. If you go online and you look up blobfish, it kind of has that thing going with that nose.
Yeah, I like the headlights themselves. I like the headlights themselves, just not with the rest of the front.
I wonder if this is one of those cars that when you see it in person, you go, "Oh my gosh, now I get it. It's stunning." Because there's a lot of cars these days. It's really tough to gain a good insight on design without seeing it.
Yeah.
I just think that the people who designed it would also know how to take photos to prevent that issue.
Yeah, well, I guess a reason to buy this is if you don't care about style because you're spending most of your time inside the car, in which case Genesis interiors are insanely phenomenal.
Oh, yeah, they're very much improved, and they're definitely right up there with the German arrivals.
Yeah, so that would be its only saving grace. But yeah, it needs a lot of work, and there's aftermarket.
A cool shift knob. Apparently, I think it's like a glass ball that spins upside down, and then you twist it, which is cool. So that's park where you see the glass section, and it flips around, and that's very fun.
Yeah. So there's perks, but it's going to be a first EV, which I would maybe argue you shouldn't really buy. So a first
On the other hand,
model
it's
They'll have
all
a great warranty.
Hyundai Kia bits, so it'll probably be fine. It's all known quantity stuff underneath ish.
Yeah.
See how well that worked out for Kona, but
yeah. We'll see, but I'm just so disappointed because the Genesis G80 was like my favorite press car of the year in some ways, like partially because it was the most surprising, and so much of that was the interior. Like I just felt like complete luxury, like that, and the Volvo were like on par with the nicest places to be. So we'll see. I am excited to drive it. It could be, I mean, whenever it does come out. But definitely I would buy the Ioniq 5 with the looks. I'm not even a fan of the what's the other one? The Kia
Telluride?
The EV6.
The EV6.
Oh, the EV6.
I don't really care about that one's looks either, but yeah.
It's better. I think it's better than the Genesis. I think it's Kia has a very polarizing design language because it's a very angular kind of a thing.
Very sharp
Some
angles,
people it works, some people it doesn't. And Hyundai has that too. It depends on the car.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's funny is that I actually kind of like the EV6 a little bit more than the Ioniq 5 in the photos that I've seen. I still want to see them both in person because I think they're actually quite large. I think photos make them look pretty small for the most part, but I think they're actually quite big in person.
Yeah, so that's interesting because I think photos, like the whole, or not even photos, like the renderings you see on car websites, because usually those are renderings, not photos. Sometimes they're photos. But with the, what was the name of the prototype for Toyota Supra? I love that prototype. And then when the Supra actually was unveiled, I didn't like it. Like, it wasn't for me. And then seeing it in person has changed that. And now I love the Supra. The Corvette C8 has taken somewhat of the opposite approach. Like, they unveiled it. I was like, that's the coolest thing ever. The renders look amazing. And now I'm tired of seeing them. So it does depend on the spec, though. Like, depending on the color and the spec, I actually do like the C8. But I don't like all of them. Versus the Supra, I pretty much like every single one at this point.
Just word of advice, if you're getting a C8, just don't get red. Just
you're not a Ferrari.
Yeah, don't get red.
Because then it looks like
chrome wheels.
I would be that guy who would order a C8 in red and like literally take it to the far extent of Ferrariizing it. It'd be like the what's some of those knockoff websites that you order like a knockoff version of something and it arrives.
Like Wish.
Wish or Wow or whatever.
Yeah. I would make a Wish Ferrari. Yeah.
Wish Ferrari.
So you know who does have consistent design language? AMG. I think for the most part, you just see it and you know it.
Yes, they all look the same.
Yeah.
Well, they all have the new Panamericana grill or whatever they're calling it, which actually has translated very well across the cars. They're doing big grill well. Can we all agree on that?
That's true.
Because everyone's doing these big grills, and for some cars, it's a little
BMW.
Bit of a miss.
The badge is still too big for me, but then there's another badge in case you didn't see the first badge. But I do like it. So this is the Mercedes AMG GT 63 SE Performance. Or is that just Performance revealed? Okay.
Oh, no, Performance is the full name.
Okay, that is a mouthful.
Yes, it's a very long name.
Let's just, AMG with back wheels. That's awesome. Those are so wide.
Well, the exciting thing about this particular car is that it is AMG's first ever plug-in electric. Yeah. It's definitely going to be a sign of things to come. As you know, they've already announced that the AMGs are going to have 4 cylinders in them, like for the C-Class and the E-Class. So 4-cylinder with battery like this car, I mean, the battery attached to this one, which still has the 4-liter twin-turbo V8, makes it the most powerful AMG ever made from Mercedes. I mean, 831 horsepower and over 1,000 pound-feet of torque. That's quite stout. But I think the best part about this car is Mercedes advertises that you can go a whole 7 miles on electric range. So if you live close to your Starbucks, you are good. Every other time, though, you are going to be listening to the twin turbo V8, which is not a bad thing because AMG makes a great sounding motor. But it's just kind of funny that they're like, oh, let's make this plug-in electric. And, what should the range be? Oh, what range? We thought this was going to be like an electric boost type deal. No, it needs to have range, damn it. Okay, 7. Can't even do 10.
Darn, my twin turbo V8 just fired up. I guess I'm out of battery. 6.1 kilowatt hour battery pack. Who knows what percent of that is usable? Which
hopefully all of it.
That is
I
smaller.
imagine a lot of that has to be usable. It's pretty small.
That is smaller than so the Zero motorcycles, like their smallest battery pack is 7 kilowatt hours, and this is smaller. That's incredible. I wonder how much this car weighs. But they have broke 3 seconds 0 to 60, so that's big news. This goes 2.9 according to them. It looks cool. I've never actually seen the charging port in the back. It's like they know you drive an AMG, you're going to reverse into that charge point station.
This is a common trend among Mercedes plug-in vehicles. Is the butt plug, as I call it, the charge port in the back rear bumper corner. It's a weird thing. I suspect it's more to do with packaging. I mean, it seems like, and it's low because it's in the bumper, so you're kind of like, it feels a little like it's just unnatural to reach. I mean, that photo, you can see the guy's bending over quite a bit to do it. And he's not a tall looking man because that charger's like pretty, that's probably only 4 feet high or something. It's just a weird spot to have it, but they've been doing that on like the GLC and the C-Class plug-in hybrid.
Yep, I was going to say Mercedes definitely put claim to the rear plug-in. It's like back in the 70s.
No one else is doing it.
In the back of your car, yeah.
But
I will say, I think the AMG GT 4-door looks really good. I think it's a really good, cool-looking car, and I love that little button.
Car. Is this an all-wheel drive vehicle or no? They're all-wheel drive, I think.
I believe it is. I think most AMGs nowadays are all-wheel drive.
So this is an interesting comparison here. Would you rather have this or a Panamera Turbo SE hybrid, which has 0 to 60 in the same time, 196 mile an hour top speed, which is the same, but 30 miles or more, 31 miles, 32 miles of electric range?
Well, if money wasn't an issue,
which executive
sedan
would you prefer? Well,
no, get out of here with that. I would like
this is in the scenario where you need an EV and a gas car in one, and you can't have two. I wonder if the reason they're doing this is just for AMG customers who live in zero emission zones, because in Europe you have zero emission zones, which are like, you have a congestion charge if you drive into London. Now there's a similar thing where if you drive downtown in many major European cities and you're in a gasoline car, well, now you pay an extra surcharge for doing that, for polluting that environment. Whereas if you drive there in a plug-in hybrid and you're in electric mode, you don't have to pay that. BMW's, mapping all that stuff out in their plug-in hybrid specifically for this. So maybe this is for someone who lives in one of those areas and just needs enough electric range to get from their garage out of that zone without paying the extra fee or something. Because I don't know, but plugging it in seems a little pointless otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what
they let you plug it in instead of making it a regular hybrid. I guess I shouldn't complain. They're at least moving in the right direction.
I mean, the price looks like it's going to be competitive with the Panamera. This thing could probably top out close to $200,000. I mean, the standard one already is like $150,000 or $160,000 car or something like that. So, but I'd have the Panamera.
Well, yeah, that's not even the SE. The SE is probably going to be 200.
They start at like 190.
Yeah,
but that's okay because you get like a $3,000 tax credit.
Yeah, basically free. I do like it. Now, I am a sucker for the AMG GT 2-door. Like that style. I don't know when they first came out with that, but that design,
like 17 or 16.
Yeah, that design language just is so good. And if that ever got like a plug-in hybrid, I still wouldn't be able to afford it. But that would be another dream car, right? Yeah, I mean,
It has one pedal driving regenerative braking levels this is very cool, with a track only regenerative programming setting too, for like really aggressive.
That's kind of cool.
That's cool. Okay, so they didn't just
the battery pack.
Cool, they've come up with some interesting solutions for it, which is very nice.
So
it does apparently 81 miles an hour in electric mode, which I am curious if you can make it. Most people, can you make it to a highway before the battery runs out and then make it to that speed? I wonder if that'll ever be achieved. That'd be a challenge.
Yeah, I wonder. So
I know where I live, I could not almost.
The Jeep Wrangler 4xE, bringing that back to that, you have to, like, it has electric mode and then hybrid mode and then e-save, which lets you save that electric driving for whenever you want. So what I did was save that for when I got to the trail. So it was like an hour drive to get to the trail. Then I switched to electric mode, which what was interesting is e-save, even though on this, like, all the text and stuff on the screen says it'll keep your current battery, which was 100, it let my battery fall to about 93% during that. And you can even say e-save charge my battery. So technically about 3 hours of driving would give you 50-60% of battery power, but it won't charge it over like 90%. It's really weird.
That makes sense. It's probably leaving a little extra so that your braking can still be done by regenerative braking. You need somewhere for that energy to go, I guess, which is potentially why you experience that in e-save. It probably just burned a little bit, so it had some to benefit, because otherwise you're just wasting brakes for no reason.
Which I think that makes sense, but it's just funny because the wording on the screen is very, like, to the point of like, oh, you put this on at 100%, you'll have 100% battery whenever you want to use it. So, which is not that big of a deal because it's not that much battery. It's 17 kilowatt hours, 15 usable. But so your comment about the regen though was interesting because the Jeep also had so one of the Jeep's pros was the brake pedal. Like, a lot of hybrids have a very distinct brake pedal feel. You can feel when it's like switching between regen and like physical brakes. The Jeep was so linear and smooth. I never knew when it was like regen versus like actually bringing in the physical brakes. There's also a regen, like a max regen button, which was awesome because on the trail, it was basically acting like an engine brake, but I didn't have to worry about stalling it or anything. So that was something I didn't really think about until I was on the trail. This gives me so many, like, this is like one of my first like actual trail experiences in a proper vehicle. Like, me and Kyle have taken, things that weren't going to go on trails, which you guys have done too. But taking like an actual trail vehicle, I was like, oh, maybe I am an off-roader in heart. Like, I just never knew it.
The first time anyone takes anything off-road, you go, ooh, maybe this is for me. Because it is satisfying and it happens at a speed where things are relatively safe. So, like, I think even non-car people can have a little bit of fun, like driving on a slightly rocky, bumpy trail where you just have to use a little bit of brain power to go, which way did I go? Where do I want to put a tire? It kind of makes for a kind of engaging drive and some scenery generally.
Yeah. Everyone can be a car person. It's fun to like have non-car people in like the Tesla reaction videos. Like, they just had no idea. I don't know. It's funny, like the amount of times I'm hanging out with friends or like my wife's friends, like people that don't care about cars at all. It's not even my doing, I swear. But the conversation at some point will just shift to cars because everyone's had an experience or something, and it's like they can all talk about it, even though it's not their quote unquote passion. So,
well, I think in America, especially, that, and it's, if you're not American, it maybe is harder, or North American, I should say, is our daily lives are so influenced by cars, even if you hate cars, because unless you live in very select metropolitan areas, you have to drive. There's not many walkable cities. Yep. Everyone's in the suburbs or commuting, so it's such a part of the American experience, for better or for, well, probably more for worse than just for better at this point. But it's interesting. I think EVs have this tendency to rope people who have no interest in cars from an enthusiast perspective into this is kind of fun. I like this. I could enjoy this or something. And I think that'll be interesting to see. Just like you mentioned with that Jeep, maybe you pull people who are already into cars into EVs now. I think there's opportunity now, especially with the variety of capabilities cars can do and the different types of powertrains, to either bring more people into the hobby or open people's eyes to things they would have otherwise ignored completely.
Yeah, they don't realize it until they're sucked in. But
Well, that's going to be like the F-150 Lightning is going to probably bring
yeah.
a lot more buyers to EVs and
yeah,
just realize how much there are a lot of benefits to owning just a pure electric car.
well, I wanted to end with a photo that Ben has sent me of the blobfish. If I could reshare this. So
this is the new
this is
Genesis.
Genesis.
Yeah, this is the new Genesis GV60, everyone, in white. So there's the blob and there's the Genesis. If you're
Why is it not as ugly as you think, just like the Genesis? I don't know.
Now, I do feel that was a little harsh. I'm sorry, Genesis designers, and I would love to be proven wrong. Just hook me up with press car for a couple weeks, because I bet it looks better in person, especially once you explain it to me.
Yeah. So I don't know who to be like, poor Genesis, poor blobfish. I don't know which one's worse to be compared to the other, but you know. So yeah, if you are confused as a listener, this is a good time to point out we have this show on YouTube as well. And we also have all of our stuff on YouTube. Out of Spec Motoring is Kyle's like big EV channel. Out of Spec Reviews is a lot more diverse content of like all sorts of cars, reviews, quick drives, range tests, everything like that. And we have Twitter, which is Out of Spec with underscores in there. And my Twitter, Jordan_Schieffer. We have Mike's Twitter at M_Breeling, and Ben is Benji_OOS. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you very soon in another fun-filled episode.